University. And I must tell you that before we start, that we've had many folks on to talk about the athletic program at Tennessee State University, and you're simply following a great tradition. But first, let's have you to talk about Dr. Vivian Fuller, to talk about your background and give us some information about your education and some of the things that eventually led you to the situation you're in now.
Well, thank you. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank you for having me on the show. I have been in Tennessee now a little over 2 months, and I took the job as athletic director on October 1. I came here from Chicago, Illinois, in which I served as director of intercollegiate athletics at Northeastern Illinois University, which is on the north side of Chicago. Prior to that, I was at Indiana University of Pennsylvania as associate athletic director, and prior to that, I was at North Carolina A&T as assistant athletic director. I went right up through the ranks of teaching, coaching, and director to the directorship. I grew up in rural North Carolina. I'm a sharecropper's daughter and have 4 sisters and 1 brother. So I am a very goal-oriented person and very task-oriented. And one of the things that I decided, if I was going to be in higher education, then I was going to be the best in higher education, and I was going to be the best in whatever jobs that I attained. And that's how I decided that I wanted to pursue athletics administration.
And so eventually you ended up at Tennessee State University as the athletic director. Tell me, Dr. Fuller, what did you know about, coming, of course, from North Carolina, you certainly knew something about Tennessee State University, but what did you know about Tennessee State University before you became involved with this as an athletic director?
The one thing that stands out,
image,
that stands out to me was the Olympians. Wilma Rudolph, I knew of Tennessee State. John Merritt, I knew was a part of this great ham. Ralph Boston, I knew was a part of this great ham. And also, I remember Ed Temple as a child growing up and that wonderful 4x4 relay team. And that's more about what I knew about the institution. I knew Tennessee State University had a very strong sports tradition, had a very strong sports history. I knew a great number of Olympians had come out of here. But as far as the nuts and bolts of Tennessee State University, I learned them as I went through the interviewing process.
Now, what have you learned about the athletic program at Tennessee State University in terms of the nuts and bolts of it, your responsibilities and your tasks and the things that are laid out before you?
I think as a new person coming into any program, I think one thing that you have to look is from a manager standpoint, and I consider myself a manager. I also consider Tennessee State University's athletics program a small entity of the university. It is almost like an independent contractor, is the way I see it. One of the things that my role is first to come in and assess the program. Second, evaluate personnel and see where we are. And when I say personnel, I'm speaking of coaches and student athletes. Thirdly is fundraising, which is a very strong effort because I feel very strongly that in order to move us into the next millennium, external funding is the way that's going to help move this program over the curve. And the fourth component is community outreach. I think it's very important for us as an institution of higher education to be out in the community, be out speaking to children, to be out speaking and working. I've been here less than 2 months and I've spoken to over 3,000 people already. And it's every day of the week out in the community talking and telling stories about Tennessee State, trying to restore that strong sports tradition that exists.
Well, what do you find the response to the folks that you meet? I mean, when you go from these various places, how do they receive you and what are they saying to you about what ought to be done or what could be done and et cetera?
One of the things that I find out that's very encouraging is the community is very supportive. It's almost as if the town has enveloped me. There's a lot of curiosity right now. People want to know who is Vivian Fuller, what makes her tick, why does she think that she can handle this job? When we look at the NCAA, there's over 1,000 institutions within the NCAA approximately, and I think about 986 of those are like Division I institutions.